Welcome to Beyond the Bottom Line, the podcast where founders and business owners get in-depth insights and actionable takeaways from industry experts. We're here to help maximize your revenue, streamline your operations, and keep more of your hard-earned money. Now here's your host, Miguel Alexander Centeno.
Thanks for joining. I'm Miguel, founder and CEO of Centurion Firm, where I have the honor of leading a small tax strategy team serving businesses just like yours. And the cool thing about what I get to do is I get to work with businesses who are doing much cooler things. I do a deep dive with clients, mentors, and businesses I admire about their world, how they think about the area that they're an expert in, and we dive into how you as a business owner or operator can learn from the best. Joining me today is Zohaib Peti, co-founder of Leapify and Lead Origins. And I'm excited about this episode because Zoe has an incredible story of going from scrappy to serious. He's a hustler, a thought leader, and working on some very interesting projects that help small businesses show up in front of their prospects. So without further ado, here is Zohaib Peti.
Yeah, thanks for having me. Zohaib Peti, a lot of people call me Zoe. I've spent the last decade really building and scaling companies across e-commerce, services, healthcare, and now AI. And started when I was, I can go a little brief into it, but started when I was 13 with my first e-commerce business. It was kind of like more so around a passion of being a fashion designer. I had a couple friends who were in that line of business on a particular product that I was like, oh, this product is going to go really, really well. It was a pair of jeans that had a particular design that was only built by one designer company, and they're like $1,500. I know today's culture is a little different. People are spending, 4 figures, 5 figures on clothing pieces, but over 10 years ago, that was unheard of. I wanted Alibaba, showed them a design, told them to manufacture, got it landed for like $45, $47 a pop, retailed them for $150, sold them through like Facebook groups. And then kind of built a little brand, and then like got featured, like shout out on a couple sneaker blogs, and they just started a lot of just organic marketing. And I didn't even know I was doing marketing. I was just trying to sell an idea I had, and we did fairly well. And then Zara and H&M started producing them and kind of depleted our business. But it was pretty well, for that time as a 13-year-old, I was pretty capitalized on like, oh no, I can go do other things now. And that yielded into, just obviously being a hustler. I did everything from like jailbreaking, repairing people iPhones, to buying and flipping sneakers by the lot, reselling stuff, things like that.
I'm with entrepreneurs, and I think it's really interesting because I think some people listening that are founders maybe went the corporate route and then figured out when to jump. Your story is really interesting because you're a founder from day one. In a way, I'm curious if you can take me back to Zoe at 13. Like, what did you want? What were you unsure? Like, what was your mentality that you're like, no, I'm going to do this?
My mentality was, when I was growing up and I went to school, I think in like 3rd grade, I think we were learning about like careers and stuff like that. And I was like, oh, an accountant. Funny thing was accounting was the thing that came up. An accountant makes $60,000. And my dad had a really successful friend. And I was talking to my dad's friend, and I was like, "How much do you make?" And he's like, $75,000. I was like, "Oh, look, accountant makes $6,000 a year." And he goes like, "No, $75,000 a month." And that thing really changed my perspective. This individual was an immigrant, spoke broken English, was in the gas station business, and he was to me. I was as a kid, he had like cool cars and everything like that. So I was like, "He's my cool uncle, right?" And when I saw that and I heard that, it kind of really like planted a seed in me. My dad was also an entrepreneur himself. And being said, I kind of knew I wanted to be a businessman because I wanted to be like my dad. Like everybody wants to be like, growing up, you want to be like your dad. So it was always like, okay, cool, I want to be a businessman. And, when I was like 13, it was more so like what I really wanted was, you're 13, you just want to be cool, right? And, growing up I grew up in a pretty like, I wouldn't say like it was like very like culture driven neighborhood in terms of like sneakers and this and that. So you want to be cool. You need to have the used pair of Jordans and this, that, the other. I mean, there's no way in hell my dad was going to pay $150, $120 for a pair of sneakers for me. And so for me to attain that status, needed to figure out how to purchase a pair of figures. And for me to come up, how would I make $150, right? So that was kind of like my mindset. Like really, it was just more so like I came from a very materialistic and status-driven inspiration to entrepreneurship. And, and that's completely okay. I feel like I know some people frown upon that, but I feel like completely fine. It ignited something in me, and I'm thankful for it.
Yeah, well, what's really cool is that, there's people that have the desire that want the things and never find a way to them. What's really cool is 13-year-old you is like, I'm going to get those. I don't know if they were Air Force Ones or whatever it was. Did you find a way?
My first hustle was in like fourth grade. Everyone was selling chips and snacks at school. And I was like, this is so like useless, right? And I needed lunch money, right? And because I was on like the free lunch plan or whatever, and there's always like bad food. And they used to have like a premium bar at the school, which is like $2 for a chicken sandwich and stuff like that. I was a big boy growing up. All of some good food. And pretty much, instead of selling like what everyone else was selling, I started selling like G2 pens and particular like lead pencils that, you'd have to go buy at the store. That I would go to like Sam's Club when my family would go and buy like for $10 and then open it up and sell them. I learned that. I just learned arbitrage really young, that you can buy something for very cheap and go sell it. And it came really deprived from my father owning a corner store. And that's what he did. We would go to the cash and carries, go purchase whatever he needed to sell at the store, go restock the inventory and sell it. He'd buy it for 50 cents and sell it for $1. So that's kind of like my mind worked with arbitrage. And when I first started, I think for me, when I first sold like my first pair, and like when I got the ship, I posted a picture, I sold my first pair in 10 minutes. I was like, oh, easy. And then when I learned, like, I think I used BigCommerce to build up the website, and I made the website and I started selling my website. It was very surreal. I think I did about $150,000 in revenue in the business in about 14 months. And it's a lot of money, after cost of goods and this, that, the other. Like I was messed. And when I had that capital, I felt infinite. Like I was like, this is awesome. So it was like, I love this. This is awesome. This is cool. I found my calling. And when I attained that first, like the first deposit in my account, it was unreal because I didn't have a bank account. Right? And at that time, we didn't have the neobanks and all this digital tools that you have today, right? Hey, Dad, can I deposit money? Can I use your name and Social Security for payment processing?
What did your dad say? Like, was he like supportive?
Parents were so supportive. When I used to flip sneakers, my mom used to drive me to meetups. My parents were always 1,000% supportive in anything I had to do. They never said no. They're just like, yeah, go for it. As long as, they just had a rule. Don't break the law. Don't harm others and don't harm yourself. As long as I'm following those, three rules, they're supportive.
Well, that's pretty libertarian. Well, I think it's funny because there's a lot of parents out there that when their kids want to start a business, they're like, well, you don't understand the first thing about it, So it's really cool that your parents were so encouraging. Have you gotten that support kind of throughout as you continue to build? Was there ever a day they're like, hey, son, maybe you need something more secure?
No, I don't think that's ever been an even conversation in our family. I think the only thing is, it's like whenever, I have my tough cycles, it's like entrepreneurs is ups and downs, and I'm never really down. The only thing my father would ever tell me is check something else out, check out another vertical, check out another industry, try to diversify. It never was, hey, you should quit this. I was never, growing up, my parents were like, yeah, become a lawyer or doctor, they make a lot of money. And then when I was like, no, I'm going to be a businessman, they're like, okay, as long as your bills are paid. My dad's entire philosophy was like, I will always provide the bare necessity. You have a roof over your head. You'll have food. You'll get a basic phone. You want an iPhone? Cool. Go get it yourself. You want the nice, I'll get you Payless shoes. You want Jordan? You can go buy it yourself. You'll get the bare minimum from me, and I'll provide that as a father to you. But if you want any like luxury in your life, and the word luxury was a big deal because that means if I wanted to eat McDonald's, that's a luxury. Not you can eat at home. We have food at home, right? So that was kind of like, it was like the reward system. And then for me, I was a very big believer in academia. I was a very, I was a straight A student pretty much all throughout until I went to college. And, I had a very big, like parents like just put that reward thing in my head where it's like hard work equals a reward. So you want a Game Boy, you work hard. I just kind of looked at life like that. Like as long as I worked hard and tried my best, I will achieve whatever I put my mind to. If more so anything, they were there for me and they supported me and they just planted other seeds that actually were a lot more fruitful.
It's actually really special. And I think it's kind of like the playbook, knowing it or not, that's kind of the playbook for raising an entrepreneur. I think about the difference with, I'm going to say like the Mexican community is you also have this immigrant mindset, but you also have a scarcity mindset where they're like, mijo, or whatever they call you, like I'm worried that you won't have money for the rent. So I want you to find the most secure job, like an accountant, what I did. So that you don't have to worry like we worried. And I love this contrast of saying like, hey, your bare necessities, you're good. Don't worry about that. But you want more than that, go out and achieve it. And as a dad, I got to say, like, I'm taking notes from that story. I think that's really special. And it sounds like you appreciate and understand how special that is.
Yeah, I owe all my success to my parents. I think they did such a amazing, they tried their best. There's obviously, like any other thing, there's a lot of things that could have been better, but they really tried their best. And they're amazing people. And I still to this day, they teach me so much work. Maybe like, like, wow, I can't, I'm so proud. I'm so happy to call you guys your dad,
No, that's really cool. That's really special. Thank you for sharing that. Well, let's continue the journey a little bit, because I was doing a little bit of research. It looks like you figured out e-commerce, and then there's a journey saying, hey, I figured out advertising. Then there's another journey around that where it's like, we're not doing the advertising, we're becoming the platform. Take us through a little bit of the evolution.
Well, the evolution really came from, so we also, when growing up, we lived in a combined family. My dad and his brother lived together. And so technically he's my cousin, but he's my brother because we still live together. So my brother, Bilal, finally got a lot older, meaning he was 12, 13 now too, when I was 15. And he, and like I said, the entrepreneurship, our fathers owned a corner store together. Entrepreneurship is just in our DNA. And once he kind of like grew up and he had like, he's a kid, he wanted to be a pilot. And then he started growing up. He's like, no, I want to be a businessman too. And it was like, oh, great. Like my built-in, he was my best friend because he's my brother, my best friend. I'm like, well, how about we become business partners? And he started working on his own thing. So I had the background in e-commerce, but then I ventured out into more like repairing iPhones, arbitrage. I bought like a couple of used cars, fixed them up and sold them, like just random things like that. And I learned like accounting, cost of goods, like Excel and things of that nature. And he actually took that e-commerce and ran with it. So he used to buy stuff from AliExpress and saw on eBay, like Ninja wallets, flashlights, and just random stuff. And he's like, yeah, I was doing this. I was buying it at small, quantities. And I just figured out this thing. It's called drop shipping. And basically, we don't even own anything. We go and we just basically sell the product online, and once the order comes in, the manufacturer will ship it directly to them. I was like, it's brilliant, because all we have to worry about is distribution. And this is like when Facebook ad was a new thing, and this is when their platform was launched, and Google ads and SEO. There were like a million in digital marketing agencies, and et cetera, et cetera. And if you really knew how to leverage them, you would easily rank on Google's first page and easily, get very low cost for acquisitions. And my brother he was really well on, I was really good at SEO and creative. He was really good on like web development and Facebook ads. And we started like a couple e-commerce and dropshipping clothing businesses together, actually.
Shopify, or was this on Shopify?
This is on Shopify. So Shopify was just brand new. Stripe was just partnering up with Shopify. This is like early date. I'm talking about like 2015, 16. So, we get on and we build a couple Shopify websites, and, we probably built about 50 plus sites. 17 did really well, meaning that they're positive cash flow, and 4 did over 6 figures of revenue a month. And we did really well at a really young age. And we even got like a small like storage, started like doing fulfillment of those high selling products in-house. Then we got hit with something. I was probably like 17 at the time. He just turned 16 because we're a year and some months apart. What had occurred was we weren't 18 and we were processing, and one of our stores did like 900K in revenue in 3 months, and that kind of flagged. Was a company called Global E-Payments, I think. They froze our accounts. They froze our processing. we were drop shipping, so we had a high chargeback rate. And basically, all said and done, all said and done, after the whole, the held of fund, refunds, this, that, the other, Facebook ad payments, Google ad payments, we were in the whole, about $150,000. We went to thinking that we were going to be overnight millionaires, so now we're in debt and everything's under our parents' name. We realized, I think I was listening to, I think it was a Gary Vee video, actually. Yeah. And it was like something about like turn your skill and monetize your skill. I was like, hey, we're really good at marketing. We should just offer that as a service. And we started our first agency during this time. I just went on Yellow Pages and just found like local businesses. And I would just email and I would go into the website, look at their footers, see who's doing their website, go to their website, see if they're like have their prices on, and then just go and beat their pricing. And I got my first client in like a week of doing this, and it was just a karate studio in multi-locations in Houston, Texas. And I basically was like, look, you're paying $400 a month for your website. I'll do it for $199. And well, we're really good at marketing. We can do this, we can do that. The guy's like, you know what? Come meet me. It's Kroger Starbucks in like Pasadena, I think, Texas. Me and my brother, I was like, because he looked younger. I had like some facial hair, so I looked a little bit more, mature. And he sat across and I had the meeting with the client and he signed. And then we started like our agency. And this is 2017.
Did the agency just launch from that point?
One client turned to another, to another, to another. And we, that agency just really, through a lot of struggle and trial and error, it really got really, pretty well. We were doing 8 figures in revenue. We acquired a printing company. We were doing embroidery, print media. We got into the television media space, the billboard media space business. And, we grew into a sizable company. We amassed, a bunch of clients and, a bunch of great network and stuff like that. COVID kind of hit. And we're actually, in talks of trying to figure out what to do when COVID hit. And while 80% of our revenue decreased, we're like, we're hustlers. You have to figure out, we have bills to pay. We started in the first COVID testing center in Texas. Then we also got in the wellness space, so the CBD space. We'll get a franchise. But when I went into it, I was like, dude, I can build a brand. I can do this myself. I don't need to pay franchise fees and this and that. We built our own brand in that space. And, we scaled that to 22 locations, the CBD business, and we scaled the COVID testing to 18 locations. And then the agency that we had at that time, we ended up having to essentially go through an exit. Pennies on our, we didn't really make a tremendous amount of money. But that exit happened, and then we were like, dude, we should do a digital-focused agency now, especially now that we have other businesses, bills are paid for everything. We really don't want to build. And we built our company called Lead Origin, which was started off as like a digital transformation and data intelligence firm, and pretty much a digital marketing agency, just really focusing on digital transformation for mid-market companies. How can we enable companies using technology? And that's kind of where our mindset kind of changed from being thinking about just trying to make hustling and making money. Because at this time we were pretty content with where we were in life and that element, but we're like, we got to find a bigger purpose. And the agency was great, but we've done an agency, right? We've done this before. And then all these retail businesses, we're good at it, but just it doesn't really do that for it. It doesn't give us our kicks, right? It's too small. We're not selling globally. We're not doing something. And then that's when I'd say roughly about 3 years ago, we started learning how to program. And my brother is substantially better programmer than I am. But, this is like when AI was booming, we were learning about artificial intelligence. We were aware about machine learning and stuff like that. But now we're actually learning about programming and coding and et cetera, and et cetera. And that's when we learned, I guess, how to become engineers ourselves. But we're not dependent. So we did like a year of that. And our biggest thing was after working with, our career thing, we've probably worked with north of 5,000 businesses, everything from small mid-market to enterprise. Like we've, a large 65 billion a year publicly traded company that's our client, Lead Origin, and et cetera. We've worked with so many different, we got into so much process and, perspective and being able to sit underneath the hood about a lot of operations of so many businesses. We just saw so many disconnected tools, especially segmented on the small business and the mid-market business. Like you have to figure out a tech stack, you got to do X, Y, and Z.
And you don't have an in-house programming team like some of the publicly traded companies that can figure that stuff out.
I mean, even them, like they would have Salesforce or an ERP implemented and like half the staff didn't know how to leverage it. and it was really baffling for me because I thought by the time I'd get up to that level, enterprise or, billion-dollar companies and stuff, that I'd be like, oh my God, like this is gonna be such a good learning experience. It was actually worse in my opinion. Like I was actually so baffled by it. I was like, that's insane. So I really figured out that
nobody has it figured out is what you're learning at this stage.
Yeah. A lot of, there are, it's not nobody, but I'd say it's only a very small portion that know how to fully leverage technology in an organization for it to be a extremely fruitful return on investment. And honestly, just being from a background of an immigrant family, entrepreneurship, building so many businesses, so many verticals, and exiting so many businesses, so many verticals, we were just like, we love small business. We love mid-sized business. That's who we love to work with. We love entrepreneurs. These are our people. These are who we relate most with. I want to make their lives easier. Because dealing with being in the agency, you're talking to business owners, like, we've tripled some companies' small businesses revenue and this, that, the other, and we see a direct impact in their life. I remember one of our clients had a child in his 40s. And he's like, living with a kid this late. His eldest son was in his mid 20s. So I can't believe this is a thing, but dude, you guys have made my life so crazy. I started to realize the true impact of what we're capable of, and that's kind of where we started our current focus project. I do run Leapify, which is over here, which is our AI operating system for small and mid-sized businesses. We have Lead Origin, which is our digital marketing creative agency. We have Withport, which is a source staffing agency. And then we have 2 e-commerce businesses, a couple commercial real estate projects.
Let's take a break here. On this episode, Zoe mentions his favorite book, Shoe Dog by Phil Knight, who, if you don't know, is the founder of Nike. A cultural icon now, Phil Knight didn't always have it all figured out. A quote from his book: "I've spent a fair portion of my life in debt. As a young entrepreneur, I became distressingly familiar with that feeling of going to sleep each night, waking up each day, owing many people a sum far greater than I could repay." It's an encouraging story that with the right persistence, you too can grow an amazing business. If you want to learn from a piece of American business history, I highly recommend getting a copy and giving it a read or a listen. Later in this episode, you'll hear Zoe bring up Shoe Dog a few times. Now, let's get back to the conversation. I want to dive into the difference between the agency and the platform. Before I do that, you mentioned a few things that were really eye-opening about kind of how you were building, and I want to just double click on a few of them. One is that, look, you're just selling, you're not figuring out, all the admin things that I think a lot of people get stuck on when they start their business. Sounds like you had your parents on as their socials when you were selling. At what point did you incorporate and figure out all the entity structuring stuff?
So in entity structuring stuff, so there was a Facebook group or this group that I was a part of. It was a lifetime payment. It's called Secret Entourage. And one of the, it was a platform like Inkfile, one of those, I don't know. They did a podcast or interview with the owner of that business. In that podcast, they were talking between LLCs, S Corp, C Corp, tax formation. And I just dived in. I was like, okay, cool. Here's the difference, this, that, the other. And I realized, okay, cool, for my model, because all I wanted it was always holding company and then multiple entities underneath. So then the holding company is, when I go get my line of credits and then et cetera, it all comes down to that tax return and et cetera. And each organization is ready for an exit without having to be liable and whatnot. And then I go, and I would always forget, even till this day, sometimes I do forget the difference between each and all. Now we have Chat GPT and everything, but I used to Google, hey, what's an LLC again? What's an S Corp again? And just refresh my thoughts.
Yeah.
But that's kind of when I initially learned, and obviously as I got, more experience, I got hired in an accounting firm and then a tax attorney, and then obviously ESON 2 for R&D credits and things like that. So, it was just a journey of making a lot of mistakes and learning, and then doing the research and figuring out what the right entity structure would be for me.
And I just wanted to double click on that because I think a lot of people get hung up on figuring that stuff out first. And I think your experience is, hey, my view is success is going to lead what you need. And then number two, like success can pay for whatever it is that you actually need to set up. So not the worst way to get successful is.
Yeah.
Excited.
Yeah, that's a great point and perspective. A lot of questions I do get sometimes from people is like, what do I do? I'm like, just get started. What are you overthinking?
Yeah.
This is the, I remember I even went to a panel and someone was asking this question where it was in Stanford. And it was something about like VC capital. And then they're talking about like Delaware LLC. And the guy was like, just start building your fund. What are you so caught up on this? I'm like, that's like, I'll be honest with you, like for the first few years, I didn't even know what taxes were. I didn't know how to pay tax. I didn't know any of that stuff. I didn't pay taxes for like 4 or 5 years, actually, until I was like 18, 19. And an accountant, and they're like, so have you ever filed taxes for any of your entities? Like, no. It's like, oh my God. I had to learn to dig up my bank statements and this and that. And it was a lot of work. But at that time, I could afford all my mistakes. I can afford the penalty fees. I can afford the accounting firm. Right. And sometimes that's what you just have to do is you just got to do it and then worry about it later. I feel like that's a great perspective that you brought up. And so we get caught up. And I call this analysis paralysis, where they just give themselves paralysis because they're overthinking such a small thing, you know?
And the other thing I wanted to touch on is, you talked about selling the first kind of marketing service you created on pennies on a dollar. It didn't sound like you look at that as failure. Like, take me into your kind of like how you think about building skills, learning, and then moving on quickly.
Matt, I think all defeat is psychological.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it's all in your brain. I just had a conversation with my father last night, and he was just telling me, what was it? He was saying, humans are just a chain of chemical reaction. You know, and I feel like my brain is very configured in that manner. But it's all lessons learned. Like all defeat is psychological. You can lose, or you could just tell yourself, "Hey, I learned X, Y, and Z, and now I'm gonna take this lessons learned and go execute over here, or redo it." Like, oh, that's just how I program. I just don't believe in failure. I don't think in failure. I don't think you can fail. I think as long as you don't give up, I think giving up is the only failure, right? And I feel a lot of people, of course, we all get discouraged. We all get doubts. Am I doing the right thing? Is this the right path? Should I do something else? But I feel like at a fundamental level, it's very crucially self-aware. I think that is the very important thing. Like, am I really built for this? Can I really handle this? And if you can talk to yourself authentically and to your core and answer it as such, and you get your answers from that, then why even doubt yourself? Just keep going, and that's kind of like how my brain looks at, things that just not go the right way or as I initially anticipate them going.
Yeah, I think what's really cool and what's really special is you have this incredible self-belief, which you just touched on, and I'm hoping you can kind of share a little bit about that. Where does that come from? Are there books or thinkers, or did it come from your parents? But this idea that you find a gap in the market, I think we can all see gaps in the market. So many people have stories like, like I had that idea before so-and-so actually created that company. Like, what is it that makes you different or crazy that you're like, here's the gap in the market, I'm actually going to fill it?
I actually asked myself what's recent thing was I've been going on like a personal development side is why am I wired the way that I'm wired?
Yeah.
Because I'm still trying to understand it too. Sure. Because it is fascinating to me. Like, why am I consistently trying to achieve greatness? Obviously, I know it's not for status or monetary or et cetera anymore. It's just anything I want to do or anything I'm passionate. I want to just be the best at it. And I'm trying to understand, I've never been a person that sits, it is what it is as an answer. If something just didn't make sense to me, I was like, it doesn't make sense. We have to figure this out, And honestly, I don't even know where it came from, to be honest. I think a mix of obviously just growing up in just growing up in a rougher neighborhood, scarcity mindset, immigrant family, seeing my parents stressed. I always looked at everything like, they have to figure it out. You know, like I was looking at like my dad left everything behind. He left a great life behind to move to America because he wanted his son to be raised in America. And he took that big of a risk. He went from being a really like comfortable life into putting himself in his 30s, you know? I'm 26 today. You know, I can't imagine, well, I still probably would, but you know, it's like I can imagine how difficult it is being 30 and being, you know, doing well for yourself and then be like, no, I just had a kid. I'm gonna leave everything behind because I want him to have the best life possible. Yeah. And just consistently hearing that story and seeing that and just seeing my dad work hard, my uncle work hard. I just really always believed in hard work. And I think that kind of instilled in me this confidence because it's like no matter what, as long as they work hard, things will figure it out, right? And that's constantly just, you know, I always said it, like I was always overconfident as a kid.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I feel like that also just in the DNA as well.
You know, I feel like that comes from moms. Is your mom very like supportive? Like you're great?
Not the best, I'd say on that end. You know, she's definitely harder on me. But she was always like motherly. You know what I mean? She always took care of me. You know, my mom always made sure to know that, you know, I'm special and the things of that nature. So it wasn't necessarily like, you know, I wasn't always told like, oh, you're handsome and this and you're a kid. You know, and that wasn't really the thing. It just ended up being like, I don't know, I think like just a internal self-belief in myself. It was really just came down to like, man, it was just like, I remember I read a biography about Bill Gates when I was like in the second or third grade. And I was reading like when he was 13, he did this and he was this, he did that and this and that. And I don't know. I just never had that. I never put myself in a box, you know? And I was like, if he did it, I can too. And that was always just like my mindset, right? And just like I said, I feel like, you know, like no matter what, like you just got to believe in yourself. Everyone has 2 ears, 2 eyes, one mouth, one nose. And now as I'm growing up, I do have to say, I love to read. I try to read at least 3 books a month, 2 to 3 books minimum. And a lot of books have shaped, you know, like my reality, like, reading, because when you read books, I feel like it's one of those very few things in life where you can learn a lot of experience with a little bit of time. Like books such as Shoe Dog by Phil Knight, What It Takes, The Timeless Way of Building, Made in America by Samuel, and Bill McDermott's books, What Winners Dream Corner, Barista Something the Corner Office. You know, and you read a lot of these books and you read a lot of these successful leaders, it really puts into perspective that ego is nothing, right? Ego is such a small thing.
Yeah.
You just can't give up. You got to be very persistent. And I think that's one thing I've just learned is like persistency. You know, it's just like if you want something, you have to go and get it. You know, if you go to the core of human behavior as Neanderthals, right? And you go back into the previous species and just look at how we operate. If you want to eat, you have to go hunt. There's no like, oh, we're gonna see. No, you have to go hunt or you're gonna starve and die. It comes down to survival too, right?
No, I think that's great. I love the outlook, and I think we'll definitely have to link some of those books in the show notes. So, no, that's really cool. And now let's talk about like, how are you looking at the future? Whether that means what you're working on or what you're excited about as a trend.
At the current moment, if you ask me, I'm pretty sure a lot of people would agree. I do believe there's an AI bubble. At the moment, you know, there are certain companies that are just like, there's no way this company is worth more than 5 companies combined. But obviously, private markets and public markets value companies differently. But needless to say, I do feel like artificial intelligence is going to, in the next evolution in humanity. It is the next, it's the next revolution, honestly. I think every breakthrough in history has rewritten the rules of physics, right? The steam engine, electricity, the telephone, computers, the internet, mobile technology, each one has started at the edge and quickly became a necessity. AI will be no different. It's like the timing won't be in decades now. It's going to happen in years, right? Mm-hmm. From the time like the first PDF came out in the 90s to then it becoming a smartphone, to then it becoming, you know, the iPhone and et cetera, et cetera. It didn't take decades. It wasn't just iPhone came out and blah, you know, smartphone under, I think. Like, what was it? HP made PDAs back in the 90s and they used to have Microsoft OS in it. It's like that, right? And I really believe like today that AI assists us, but tomorrow AI will run. I see, especially on the business side of things, because that's where I'm more aligned. I really do see AI agents running sales, marketing, finance, and even make real-time decisions like a world-class executive. launch campaigns, close deals, adjust pricing, reorder inventory, plan cash flow, and honestly keep improving without, waiting for human bottlenecks. And businesses will become like self-learning, self-optimizing machines. And honestly, humans won't be replaced. They'll be elevated, focusing on vision, ethics, and creative leaps only people can make. And I think that's the future, at least commerce and AI and such. And I think that's how business is going to translate to. And I do believe that whether you're looking at a entrepreneurship perspective or just education or day-to-day life, even with like OpenClaw, that AI assistant that runs on like Mini that came out, I think from Shannon and Wildflower spreading. I believe AI is, like I said, there is a bubble going on, but it's like any other bubble. .com bubble was big. Everyone remembers Pet.com and wow, a crash happened. Well, guess what? That crash happened. And now look how many e-commerce businesses. We believe that every bubble and crash, it really pays off, yields so much more. That's kind of like, I guess you can say, a little bit of my framework of where I see the world and future going, and where I tell everybody is figure out how to adapt AI or, what you're really good at and how to embed AI into it. And then you make yourself just, a superhuman, essentially.
Absolutely. I've got a buddy that talks about this being like the age of the centaur. And what he means by that, is the half man, half horse kind of analogy. And some people call it cyborg. I like centaur a lot better. So even in like people business, service businesses, if you can empower your people to leverage these tools, it's a huge advantage. And that's ignoring the conversation about how to update workflow and actually what gets executed using AI. Tell me a little bit about how Leapify fits into that view.
Yeah, I mean, Leapify, we're building for that world, right? Most businesses never scale, not because the product is bad or because there's no demand. They stall because of broken systems, scattered tools, unreliable staff, and making decisions based off of no data and gut feelings. Growth gets capped by operational chaos and human efficiencies. Leapify is here to fix that. We're building an AI operating system that runs your business for you. Like just true business autonomy and practice. Like imagine like you're a dental office, you get Leapify. Not just like another, not as a back end for dashboard or scheduling tool, as a brain for your business. Leapify will become the operator. It'll help enable checking patients in, answer queries 24/7, follow up with your leads, schedule your appointments, reorder supplies, flag churn, upsell whitening packages, analyze revenue patterns and predict slow season before they hit. Text the owner, hey, we're on track to beat last month by 12%. Want to run a promo to push that to 20%? And do the same for a dry clean, do a med spa, auto shop. So it's not just an AI assisted business, it's an AI ran business. So from software to a synthetic operator.
And who's the ICP for Leapify? Who's really going to benefit the most?
Small businesses, man. Small businesses are kind of like.
So it's not just the US market.
Global.
That's amazing. Well, I'm really excited about that. And for those wanting to learn more about Leapify, we will link so that you can learn more about that company. In terms of, I guess, what the next chapter of your personal development is, what are you thinking about? What are you working on? What questions are you trying to answer?
I think one of the biggest things I'm trying to instill into myself is I always feel like I was a big contradiction because I would say like, oh, I don't care what people say, but I'll hear every critique, And, I'm learning to accept that, that I'm a paradox. You build one thing, but don't be one thing. Be an artist and a capitalist. Be a savage and a saint. Treat business like a game. Treat fitness like meditation. Believe in God. Believe in yourself. Lord, art, spirit, and profit. Be a, insane serial killer at heart, but be a golden retriever in life. Do everything to the extreme. And, you should be okay with being easily recognized, but impossible to label, and just stand outside the boxes and how they divide the world. I think being a paradox is where magic happens. You give the world something new. I'm becoming something new. I feel like that's where I'm currently on the personal development side, learning to just be okay. I feel like in today's day and age, there's so many labels and people are trying to put themselves in a box or some sort of label, or I'm a founder, I'm an entrepreneur, I'm this, I'm that. And I'm just like, just be you. I think that's the biggest thing is just learning to not only, I think I'm very acceptance of who I am and I know who I am, but really embodying that and being vocal about it to empower others around me to do that as well. And I feel like humans have always been like my superpower, and being able to give that back to my team, my community, people. And one of the things I've learned, especially with purpose, one way or the other, the best thing we can do as humans is give back to our world, right? I don't really believe in legacy. I think in 100 years, I don't remember anybody, we're walking on it every day, right? But I believe that and it doesn't matter. You don't have to be the next X, Y, and Z, you can just smile, be kind to one another, educate someone on one thing. I think the biggest thing a human can do is just give back, right? And I feel like that's where I'm learning to give back, learning how to amplify who I am and use it as a power source for people around me, and just consistently get better and be more aligned with my purpose.
That's quite profound. I'm going to take notes from that. Thank you for sharing. Well, let's finish with some rapid round questions. We do these with most of our guests. You've mentioned a few books. Give me a top book that's influenced you.
Man, I definitely have to say Shoe Dog by Phil Knight.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think it was when I first read that book, it was like the first memoir I read, and it was just something that really aligned with me and like the story. Either that or there's another book that's based off The Intelligent Investor, which is called The Little Book That Beats the Market. And it really, in my brain, it really framework success as a long-term alignment. I think those would probably be my two favorite books that I've been.
Those are great. Yeah. And what about like a habit or skill that you don't have now that you wish you had?
Sometimes not being too optimistic. Sometimes I feel like I always see the best in everybody or every situation. And sometimes I wish it wasn't that person, because it would save me from a lot of mistakes. But I'd say that. Very hot take though.
That is a hot take. Okay. What about favorite productivity tool?
I love, this is having an AI audit. It's called Asana. A lot of people know it. Their stock isn't doing too great right now. But on ASANA. Yeah. The project management tool like Monday.com, Trello, and those guys. I do love that tool. I built every single company's automation, everything on that tool. Either that or N8N is what I've been using to build and deploy agents for like programmatic SEO, for like Leapify, and even like a bookkeeping one I just built yesterday because I was going through some stuff. And I think those are my two favorite tools.
We might need to talk about that later. Last place you traveled, not for business.
I was just in Breckenridge this weekend for a ski trip.
Cool.
But before that, the one that was really cool was 3 weeks ago, I was in Machu Picchu. I think that was really surreal to see one of the world wonders.
Oh, that's amazing. Did you do the hike all the way up?
Not all the way, not the 4-day hike. We did the easiest one possible.
Yeah.
I had really bad altitude sickness. I didn't realize being 13,000 feet above sea level was really going to mess me up like that.
Well, I think they have a leaf to chew if it gets too bad, right?
Leaves. Yeah, they make tea and everything off of that.
Oh man, that's so cool. I haven't done Machu Picchu, but that sounds amazing. And a question I always want to ask is, I usually ask like, what blue collar job would you work? But let me just reframe that and say, hey, look, you don't need money, but you got to work a job for a week. What would it be?
Chef or bartender.
Cool.
Yeah, I love to cook. I'm very passionate about cooking, but I love people. And I feel like as a bartender, I can talk to so many people, which is like super hard. But I would say, I think I'd be most happiest being a bartender because I'll talk to people.
There you go. Well, fantastic. This has been a great conversation. Appreciate your time. I know there's going to be a lot of takeaways here that you shared that are going to be very valuable for myself listening and for those listening as well. Thanks for joining us. Thanks for being on. For those wanting to connect with you, or follow what you're thinking about, where should they go?
Check X is Twitter X, whatever you guys like to call is Zohaib Patoli, Zoptoli. That's the best place to get a hold of me.
There you have it. We'll link that in the show notes, as well as the companies that the many companies you're working on, so people can know who we had on today. But Zoe, thank you so much for your time. It's been an absolute pleasure.
Yeah, I appreciate you, Miguel. Yeah, thank you so much for having me.
Thank you for joining this episode. To make this conversation more actionable, I encourage you to write down 1 or 2 things that you took away. And if you want to connect with me, you can connect with me on LinkedIn, where I'm fairly active. Look for Miguel Alexander Centeno. And if you found value in this show, please subscribe on whatever platform you use to listen to podcasts. And stick around for the next show. What you learn might change your business.
Thanks for listening to Beyond the Bottom Line. This podcast is brought to you by Centurion Firm, bringing you Fortune 500 tools and strategies to help small businesses and other organizations with tax, accounting, and technology implementation that maximize cash flow and long-term value. Learn more at centurionfirm.com.